I live in a great town. Crime is rare and everybody gets along. So my parents had always been okay with me going a couple of miles away from their house. I have a large family and usually my cousins were with me, so that just reinforced the whole safe idea. But that all changed on this day. My cousins Mikey and Lily were over at the time. I was 10. I'm a boy, by the way. Mikey was 8 and Lily was 6. We told our parents we were going fishing at the creek. That was 1.5 miles down the road. We took the dog with us. It was a pretty hot day, so we wore our bathing suits down. After doing the routine snake check, we started swimming and fishing and just having a great time. Until that truck came. It was a red truck, pretty beaten down, but that was formal for our town with all the farmers and such. It stopped right in front of us, so we got out of the creek to see what this guy wanted. As soon as he rolled the window down, I got a bad feeling. His hair was greasy and black, and he smelled like he hadn't had a shower in quite a long time. He was a big guy wearing a dirty white tank top. I couldn't see his pants. He just stared at us for a minute, like he was sizing us up. He kept his eyes on Lily for an uncomfortably long time. I'm not gonna lie, Lily was pretty for a 6-year-old. Blonde hair, blue eyes, pretty tall for her age. But that did not give this guy any excuse for staring at her like he was some kind of starving animal who had just found his next meal. "Are you just gonna stare at us or what?" Mikey said, breaking the silence. I could tell he was probably annoyed because we were missing a bite, but that man didn't care. "That's a pretty good looking girl you got there," he said. He said it as if she was some kind of prize, some sort of thing to be proud of. I'd give anything to have me a girl like that. "Well, she's my sister, so back off," Mikey said, stepping in front of her. Mikey wasn't usually super protective about her, but he started to tell something was wrong. We started to head back to the water when the fucking creep said, "You kids wanna come back to my house and see my pony?" Lily had a little bit of a horse obsession, so she was sold. This guy was fine to her, but Mikey and I were certain this guy was gonna do something to us, something bad. "Come on Lily, let's start heading back, we can just swim in the pool," I said. I was hoping my voice didn't sound as scared as I was. We headed back down to the water, got our poles and the dog and headed back to the road. The guy had watched us the whole time. Lily was upset about the pony, but we convinced her swimming was just as fun. But as we started to head back towards my house, back towards safety, the guy had turned around. He was right behind us now. "Hey Lily," he called out, "if you come to my house I'll let you ride my pony, she's really cute." It scared me to think that guy called her by her name for some reason, but Lily didn't catch on. "No, we're swimming in the pool now," she said. She had apparently lost all interest in the pony, so the guy just decided to get closer to us. I'm not kidding when I tell you that this guy was probably 3 or 4 yards behind us. We moved to side, and so did he. That's when we started panicking. I whispered to Lily to pretend she saw something cool in the woods. She was confused why me and Mikey suddenly were so eager to get off the road, but she went along with it. "Hey look, a bunny," she said, pointing to the woods. "Oh, let's go catch it," I said with frightened enthusiasm. We started heading into the woods when the creep called out again. "You kids are gonna need some help with that rabbit, I'll be right out." This guy had just invited himself into our imaginary bunny hunt to get away from him. I knew now that we could be killed. We were still more than a mile away from home, and none of us could run faster than his truck. No, thank you," we said, backing away slowly into the woods. The dog was growling now. Obviously, she now sensed something was wrong. "I won't take no for an answer," the guy said. And as he hopped out of the truck, I could see what he was wearing for pants. Nothing. The man had nothing on but a tank top. No underwear, no socks, nothing. Lily now understood why we had been so afraid of this man. She screamed and I picked her up and we ran. The guy ran too. The guy was pretty slow, but carrying Lily slowed me way down. Remember, I was 10 and I was very underweight, and I knew I couldn't do this for much longer. So I put Lily down and climbed up a tree, pulling her up right after me. I screamed at Mikey to go get the adults, and he took the dog and ran. I helped Lily up into the tree, higher and higher, until we couldn't climb anymore. The guy waited under the tree the whole time, yelling how he was going to get us down, and how he was going to take us home, and how we were going to ride his fucking pony. Lily knew there was no pony now, so we just screamed and cried for a good 15 minutes. The guy tried to climb the tree a couple of times, but was too fat, and I guess it hurt his bare skin too much. Eventually he heard our parents yelling, and he booked it out in his truck. We heard him speed away, and then minutes later our parents were there, and we were screaming and crying about the naked man with the pony. I wasn't allowed outside alone for a long time after that. I didn't want to be alone outside after that. It fucking terrified me that this man tried to kidnap, rape us only 2 miles from our home. Even 4 years after that, I still made my parents or older family come outside with me. I was fucking terrified. I never saw that man again. Our parents filed a police report, but they never found him. He probably just came to our area just to pick out a few victims. Glad he didn't ever get any. So scary, pantless paedophile. Let's not ever meet again. When I was 15, my dad got a job in England and moved the family to London. I'm from Scandinavia. 2 years later, his job there was done and he was ready to move back home. He did, and carelessly leaving me behind since I was 17 and considered to be old enough to fend for myself. Also, I was a pretty horrible teen, so that might have played a part. But still, I got dumped while my little sisters returned home again. It wasn't all that bad though. I got to move in with a classmate and her family. A large Catholic family who saw it their goal to get me back on the right track. Usually, their strategy included family dinner every night and asking me if I needed any help with my schoolwork, or did I need anything knitted, and so on. I played the part of the polite and dutiful surrogate daughter well, and I liked my life there very much. But I also enjoyed London nightlife. I never did drugs or anything, but I liked the thrill of being an unsupervised teen in London at night. Being too young to get into most places, I decided to get myself a fake ID. I had no idea how people acquired such things, but was pointed to a guy called Terrible Freddy. That alone should have been a clue. Terrible Freddy was a tall, skinny guy who lingered around the nightclubs. "Sure, I can help you. Give me your passport, 3 days and the cash, and I will get you an ID that could fool anybody," he promised. Ignoring my softly humming inner alarm bell, I handed him my passport. "Ah, a Norwegian little lady are you? Lovely. What brings you here?" "My family did, but then they left me when they went back home," I said, trying to sound like it was a really cool situation to be in. "But don't lose the passport, it's the only ID I've got," I added, not entirely comfortable about letting it go. Terrible Freddy seemed intrigued by this information, and I could feel him stare at me as I walked away. 3 days later, I went down to Camden Market to get my new ID. I spotted Freddy hanging around with some big bloke in a leather jacket and another smaller but psycho looking dude. The sight of them together made me uneasy, and later I can understand that it was because Freddy was always seen on his own. Bringing his posse was a new thing, and they all looked like they were on a mission more remarkable than handing a fake ID back to a teenage girl in exchange for some cash. I walked in a large circle around the market considering my options. He had my passport, and possibly my ID, my ticket into all the clubs, but the sight of the 3 men had caused an almost nauseous kind of fear in me. I couldn't bring myself to walk over to them. That's when he saw me. "Gabby! Gabrielle!" he shouted, waving and smiling for me to come over to him. I started walking towards them and saw that the other two men that he had just been talking with moments ago now pretended not to know him, one taking an exaggerated interest in the fruit on sale, the other watching intently from a distance, but his sheer size made it impossible for him not to be noticed. "I've got your papers in the car, it's over here, walk with me, Gabs," he said, and then reached out to take my hand. And in the act of pretend chivalry, completely out of character for him, he kissed my hand and then proceeded to walk arm in arm with me away from the crowded marketplace. He had a pretty firm grip on my arm, and as I attempted to free myself, saying something about not being a damsel in distress, he locked my arm into an iron grip and started walking faster. All while joking and talking, his voice friendly and cheerful, his words kind and pleasant, but his body language and forcefulness scared me. One of the last things my dad said to me before waving goodbye to me a few months earlier was, "Enjoy London life, but be smart. If something seems off, it's probably because it is." The sound of screeching tyres and the sight of a car driven by the man in a leather jacket was the last hint I needed to make my move. "Let go of me," I shouted at the top of my lungs, determined to attract attention at any cost. The car then stopped, and the huge bloke suddenly appeared as if he had been waiting somewhere close by. "Grab her," Terrible Freddy said, and then the large guy reached out to grab hold of me as the car came to a halt in front of us. I threw myself on the ground, kicking and screaming and causing the absolute most noise and chaos I could. It didn't make the three men run away, but it did attract the immediate attention of a homeless guy who shouted, "Police, police, police," so loudly that it must have been heard all over the place. More people started to move in our direction, and that's when the trio decided it wasn't worth the risk and got into the car and speeded off. The icy blue, goat-like eyes of Terrible Freddy staring at me as they left. The homeless guy, Cody, stayed with me until the police actually arrived, but what could I report? That my attempt to buy a fake ID had misfired, that I was almost kidnapped for God knows what intentions, that my passport was now in the hands of possible traffickers. Yeah, I should have reported all of that, but 17-year-old me was too scared to do it. I stayed in London until the end of the school year, then made my way back home. Not home to my family home, but home to Norway. I never told anybody what had happened, so it's nice to get this off my mind now. I'm a lifeguard at my university, and it's an easy enough job. Guarding a 4-foot pool with 30-minute rotations for 4 to 5 hour shifts is pretty freaking ideal. I have worked this job through my college career, so I have learnt how to do the least amount of work possible while still seeming to look like a good worker. One of the things I have learned is that opening shifts require the least amount of effort. It's usually way cooler than any other shift. There's a minimal amount of patrons, and guards are usually too tired to talk, so I get to avoid useless conversations, and I'm done with the day before most people even wake up. Pretty good deal if you ask me. I live about 1.5 miles north of the campus, it's literally down the street, so I opt out for taking my car and instead ride my penny. The ride couldn't be more perfect. It's dark, the streets are empty, and the city has this calm that simply doesn't exist while the sun's up. On Monday morning I leave to my usual route to work. About a mile in I notice a woman enter the sidewalk about 15 yards ahead. She walks in the middle of the sidewalk, leaving no room for my tiny ass board or myself to ride around her. Annoyed, I get off the board and begin walking towards her. She's a petite woman, probably in her mid to late 30s. She's dressed in basic workout clothes and there really isn't anything about her. She starts up a conversation with the casual and oddly energetic and high-pitched "Good morning," and proceeds to ask me questions that are seemingly harmless. She asks what I'm doing up so early, where I'm heading to, how I ride such a small board, whether I'm a student. You know, the basic small talk bullshit. After about 5 minutes of casual chatter, I realise I'm running late and politely leave the conversation and think nothing of it. Tuesday comes and I make the trek to work, again at the same place at around the same time. I see the woman position herself in the same damn place on the sidewalk. Again, I get off my board and proceed to walk towards her. Just as the day before, she begins a conversation with questions. This time, however, the questions are more specific and thoughtful, opposed to the mindless small talk questions that she spewed out previously. She asks how often I work openings and if I have a boyfriend who's worried about me walking alone in the dark. I tell her that I have a girlfriend at home who worries and that I work the shift Monday through to Friday. To both statements, she seems excited and content. I assume she's just an ally or something and again politely lead the conversation. Come Wednesday, I was annoyed but still friendly when she continued with her questions. She asked if I ever get afraid walking the streets by myself, if I carry any weapons to protect myself, and mentions that I should be more careful because the world is full of sickos and rapists. I agree and making even more of a mental note to buy some pepper spray during the weekend. Thursday comes and this time I'm prepared. If you didn't guess, I'm not one for unnecessary small talk, especially so early in the morning. I made a plan to simply ride across the street if I saw her. To my surprise, there was no signs of her. Relieved, I kept riding to the same route. The street is full of pebbles and rocks and I really didn't feel like risking a fall by crossing the street. I looked down at my phone to change the song I was listening to when from behind I hear a high pitch, "That's her, go!" I look behind me to see the same woman crouched by a bush, as if hiding herself from my view. Then out of fucking nowhere, a man in an orange hoodie is sprinting full speed towards me. He's kind of on the short side, maybe a little bit taller than me, but what he lacks in height he makes up for in width. The guy looks like a homeless linebacker. We're right next to the dorms, which I know like the back of my hand from my freshman years of living there. I figure I'm better off running than riding, so I hop off my board and make a quick left to the dorms. There's a satellite police station just past the dorm, so I know that if I can make it at least there, I'll have a chance. I can hear the man's breaths of exhaustion and I can smell his body odour just inches away from me as I sprint, Forrest Gump style, through the campus. All I can think about while running is how pissed I am that the stupid fucking lifeguard uniform requires flip-flops. One can only run so fast in a pair of flip-flops and I can feel them falling off my feet. That's when I realise that I'm in full uniform, meaning I have a freaking Fox 40 Classic whistle around my neck. If you ever heard one of those things fully blasted, you know how deafening they can be. I started blowing like a tea kettle as loud as possible while still running. I can see the station just 25 yards or so ahead of me, and I'm so fucking close to salvation when I feel my legs fall apart from underneath me. The pain of the gravel beneath my knees and the impact of the fall forces all of the air out of me. I look to see my flip-flop ripped open and my foot bleeding from the road burn. I frantically turn around, fully prepared to die or be kidnapped or whatever the fuck this guy had planned, but instead nothing happened. I look up and see no one. I scan the area, completely dumbfounded, and that's when I see him. He's standing right around the bend, about 30 yards away from me, standing completely fucking still, not even breathing heavily from the run. He's just standing there staring at me. I want to run, but I can't help but stare back. This lasts for what feels like forever until he smiles, waves a very eerie, slow goodbye, and then walks away. I don't know how long I stood there until I got the courage to limp back on my board and head to work. Now that I've had time to relax and let the adrenaline run its course, I can't think how lucky I was. This was obviously premeditated. That woman and the man worked together in the effort to do whatever the fuck they had planned to do to me. She scoped me out for almost a week, relying on my naivety to gain information. The sick bitch even gave me a warning about people like her. And something about his wave and his smile makes me can't help but think that he intends to see me again. I went to the police and filed out a report. They say they have no prior knowledge of this sort of thing occurring around the area, but they do say they are going to be looking out for them. Maybe it was the whistling or the close proximity of the station, but something caused that man to reconsider. I don't know if he's going to try again, but I do know that I am never riding to work in the dark. So, woman with the annoying voice and man in a hoodie, let's never meet again.